as to what measures should be taken next and as to what type of coordinated approach is needed.
Maria, we are also waiting to hear from Abu Dhabi airports to get a bit of a feel on what the direction is when it applies to flights from the UK. Where are we with the Brexit discussions, though? Because it looks like we had a little bit of a breakthrough.
Yeah, look, the clock is ticking, and we know there's 2 weeks before the UK could crash out potentially in WTO terms from the European Union. What I would say, however, is that there is speculation, this is not official, but is a rumor that is doing the rounds today in Brussels, that there could be a breakthrough on the fish, that the United Kingdom could be about to give ground on the quotas. Remember, they had said they wanted to see a reduction from the UK quota of fish in UK waters from the EU of 60%. That is now seen, or seems to be moving to 35%. It's closer to the 25% offer that the European Union put on the table. And they're also saying that they could potentially increase the transition period into the new quotas, given that a 5-year term to adapt to the new situation. Remember, the EU had said they wanted 10 years, and initially the UK had argued for 3. Again, this is not official, but it's what's doing the rounds today in Brussels. And the idea is that if this serves to unblock the talks over fish, that a deal could be closed.
Maria, thank you for that. That's our reporter there from Brussels, Maria Tadeo. I want to get back to Christian Nolting of Deutsche Bank International Private Bank. He's still with us. Christian, the UK is ever more finding itself in a real mess, and is also arguably losing quite a bit of leverage. That's if it had any to begin with. Is that going to make a deal a little bit easier here?
Well, I would say you cannot just be pushed to a deal just because you create this mess from the mutant virus. I think, nevertheless, I think it probably shows again what could happen if the deal doesn't happen. So literally now you see all the queues of lorries in front of the Dover port. That's always the picture we had in mind if there's a no trade deal. And maybe that helps a little bit. I think we see some developments today, as we just heard, and maybe we could get to a solution.
And then when it comes to the nearer term trajectory of cable, under pressure as you would expect right this minute, but is there a case to be made to allocate some capital into this trade?
Well, I think if we get a deal really, or a kind of solution, that could be certainly seen positive, because you just have more confidence that there is now growth of the UK economy. Of course, the virus is still there for quite some time, as I mentioned earlier, especially in the first quarter. But I think then you can plan a bit better, so there's more, let's say, certainty what you can expect, and that would also trigger money to flow back into the UK. And from that perspective, yes, I would say if you have a deal, that's certainly seen positive.
Is a double-dip recession now unavoidable for the UK as far as you're concerned, Christian?
Well, I think probably yes, that's what we see. Nevertheless, we already know, as I said, that there is probably light at the end of the tunnel. And if we see vaccinations working, which is still, as I mentioned, what we should assume, then we do see some growth for the UK in the round of 4.5% for 2021, which is then out of double-dip recession, actually.
Christian, we still have a little bit more to discuss. Christian Nolting of Deutsche Bank International Private Bank stays with us. Coming up, let's get you a bit of a snapshot and relief at last. The second biggest economic rescue package in the United States. History passes Congress, but have markets already priced it in? Is it ancient history already? Well, get that answered next. This is Bloomberg. You're watching Bloomberg Surveillance. I'm Yusuf Gameluddin in Dubai. The second economic rescue package, the second biggest in the United States history, has cleared Congress. After months of disagreement between Democrats and Republicans, the Senate followed the House in passing a $2.3 trillion bill. Package will fund the federal government for the rest of the fiscal year, and it will also provide aid for businesses and consumers, including $600 stimulus checks to most Americans. Christian Nolting of Deutsche Bank International Private Bank is still with us. Christian, the Markets Live team is looked at the reaction right after the Senate decision came through early on in the morning, and they are wondering what assets are going to benefit the most from the U.S. aid plan. Because of weeks of negotiations, markets had a lot of time to price in the consequences of this, right?
Yeah, there was a long time where this was negotiated. Remember, it was even to be discussed to be there ahead of the elections in November. Now we are close to the end of the year, and finally this is through. I think the rising infections have also pushed politicians really to that. And indeed, markets have looked into that and priced this, but I think still one reason why the US didn't do so bad as others yesterday was that we have now this agreement in place, and also now this is through the both houses of the Congress. I think is positive news also for the markets. I think especially equities are profiting from that because you see there's fiscal stimulus. That's a pattern we've seen throughout the whole year of 2020 actually.
Is it your go-out kind of stocks like airlines and restaurants that should become my primary focus again?
Well, I think that's the discussion really of growth versus value. We have seen this massive outperformance of growth because of technology being there was clearly one of the winners of all this crisis. And we think now over the recent weeks we have seen cyclical stocks coming back, and I would really differentiate between only value, because still we see a very low interest rate environment, which is not the best environment for financials, and that will stay for quite some time. So cyclicals should do quite well, and especially going into 2021, where we see a recovery then in growth.
What about the return of buybacks for banks in the United States? How critical a signal is this for the wider market?
Well, that's returning really as now it's discussed and will, I think, happen in 2021. That's certainly positive news. You've also seen that in Europe that the ECB under certain circumstances is allowing that to happen again.